Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm so happy you joined us this evening. We have another great show for you. We are live from Boca Raton, Florida. This is the show for family caregivers and others that want to learn more about caregiving, Alzheimer's disease, and other dementias, and how to make their journey a little bit better. So I'm so excited today because it's Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day. And today's show is all about heart and about love. And I can't think of a better person to talk to right off the bat that can talk to us about heart and love than Sharon Agad. She is a lifestyle senior consultant, and her company is called Right from the Heart, and Sharon does speak right from the heart. So she's going to join us via telephone right now, and we're going to talk to her. Hello, Sharon, are you there?
Hi, Marcia. Thank you for inviting me to be on your show, and happy Valentine's Day to you and all of your listeners.
Thank you, Sharon. Happy Valentine's Day to you, my friend. We are talking about the heart, and your company, Right from the Heart, you do have heart in what you do. Your name implies that, but your actions definitely show that. I know you have a lot of experience with dementia care, and you also help a lot of caregivers through the trials and tribulations of caregiving. And so I thought this would be a good time for us to talk about ways that caregivers can show love to their loved ones that have dementia, ways that caregivers can demonstrate their love. So let's just talk about that for a few minutes and share some of those ways. I think it would be very apropos for such a special day as Valentine's Day.
Well, I think we really want to show, to trigger fond memories and honor any traditions of Valentine's Day gone by, to make it as personal as possible for the caregiver and their loved one. We can start doing that by reminiscing with pictures and stories of Valentine's Day in the past to evoke some emotions and some long-term memories. We can honor some traditions such as walking in the park or baking cookies or reading poetry or things that they've done in the past that bring back fond and happy memories.
I love that because it's all about love and Valentine's Day and showing that love, and by reminiscing, because people with dementia retain their long-term memory thing that they can share together.
Exactly, and it brings back those fond memories, those feelings of warmth, those feelings of love, and that's our goal, what we're trying to achieve. As far as sometimes with families visiting with children or grandchildren, maybe they can do arts and crafts projects related to Valentine's Day and hearts so that they can have a present memory and a fond memory that they can share with their children and grandchildren.
Yes, doing things together. You know, the thing about being with someone that you love, because if you think about it, we all spend time, and spending our time is probably the most precious thing that we can give to another human being. And by spending time with your loved one or someone else that's a friend or a relative that has dementia, you're giving them the best gift of all.
And, I go back to Maya Angelou and what she said about people will remember most how you made them feel. And that's the goal for today and every day, is how you made them feel and how you shared that special day with them.
Right. And it's this. Yes, and the spending time together and having those good feelings, especially when you are positive in that time together. You want to smile, right? You want to show affection, hold their hand, give them hugs. People with dementia crave this. They really, I think, sometimes don't get enough affection because think about it. Their friends maybe have ostracized them. Maybe friends don't know what to do. They're afraid to do something. They're not sure what to say. And hugs and affection and just a big smile can just brighten their day.
And that's a perfect segue because I wanted to touch on stimulating their senses with familiar, let's say, flowers or their favorite perfume. Any way we can appeal to their senses, because communication is sometimes interrupted during the course of Alzheimer's disease or any other form of dementia. So we can communicate with things other than words, just like the things we're discussing with senses, and maybe it's playing a favorite song. Music is very therapeutic, creating a soothing and calming atmosphere. Maybe it's a song that it was their couple's, their favorite love song that they can sing together, or maybe they can dance to. But again, it's always appealing to the emotions, to the heart, and to the senses.
That's right. And what better than put on that love song and dance in the kitchen, and you can even be silly. I think sometimes being silly is fun for a person with dementia because, again, keeping your sense of humor and making things lighter and more fun for them, and that you can laugh together. Laughter, as they say, is the best medicine, and that can elicit a lot of wonderful memories too.
It absolutely can, and I think that's what's most important. And, a lot of people go out for Valentine's Day, for dinner, for lunch, and I think sometimes, especially when someone has dementia, it can be very distracting and very disorienting, and I think I would suggest to prepare their favorite meal at home and enjoy that meal and that time together.
Or go to a park and have a picnic.
Exactly, a quieter place with less distractions and less overwhelming feelings. Or sometimes, look back on other Valentine's Day presents. Maybe somebody got somebody a very special heart or a ruby ring or something that really would be a very fun memory, and they can talk about that particular Valentine's Day. So, again, appealing to the emotions, I think, is very, very important. And what you started with, showing it the simple things we can do, like hugs and kisses, and letting them know just how much we love them, just the way they are.
Right, and that leads me to say, while you're doing all of this, don't rush. Be patient. I think sometimes as caregivers, we try to get so much done, and we're trying to fit all these things in, and you want to be patient. Giving your loved one the patience to be able to be themselves and do what they need to do shows love, because you're not trying to do it for them if they can do it themselves. You're not taking away their independence. You want to give them be empowered and give them the self-esteem that they can do certain things themselves, and let them do that. And sometimes the only way that we can allow them to do that is to just, hold back and be patient and give them the time to get the task done. And that shows love to them.
I think patience is always the key whenever you visit someone with that has Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. And I think, too, it's planning ahead and thinking about something they would enjoy. And there's certain parts of activities that may be difficult or more challenging now. So knowing what they can do and embracing and making them feel successful in what they can do, and helping them with the things that may be a little bit more challenging, so they can experience that moment not just of a good feeling, but also success at what they're able to do.
Yes, you're right. You're right on. the most important thing is accept them where they are, and you touched on that, and that's the gift, the love that we can give someone is accept them where they are, meet them where they are. Sharon, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Sharon is a lifestyle consultant for seniors. She helps place people in finding appropriate independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And so if you would like more information and talk to Sharon about all the things that she can do, you can call her at Right From the Heart, and that number is 561-374-4696. Again, call Sharon at Right From the Heart, 561-374-4696, and she'll be able to help you right from her heart. So we will be right back, and after this first commercial, with more from Caregiver Solutions Info.
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know, we understand, we can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know, we understand, we can help. Arden Courts. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means
Caregiver Community Corner, and I want to announce to you don't forget, you want to get your tickets to the 3rd annual Promise Garden Luncheon and Spring Fashion Show that's coming up on Friday, March the 10th, 2017. It's going to be at the Boca West Country Club, and the time is from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. It's going to be awesome. Caregivers will learn a lot about newest research that's going on and get a lot of support. It probably will have about 600 plus people there. There will be silent auction, opportunity for fun, a wonderful meal. And of course, you'll be supporting the Alzheimer's Association by buying a ticket to this event. If you'd like more information, you can call the law offices of Pamela Polani. She's the organizer of this event, third year in a row. And her telephone number is 561-496-4222. 561-496-4222. You can call them to find out how you can get a ticket and don't miss out on this wonderful, wonderful event. So, we are here in the studio, and today is Valentine's Day, and we've been talking about all things heart. Well, I am happy to say my guests today have heart too with their work, and we're going to learn about what that is right now. So I am so happy to have with me Grace Wynn and Shay Gonzalez, and they're from Right at Home in-home care. Happy Valentine's Day, girls.
Happy Valentine's to you, Marcia.
Likewise, happy Valentine's Day.
Well, we're all here because we all have heart for what we do. My passion is Alzheimer's and dementia and helping families, and your passion is helping people in the home with your home health care. And I know you have a lot of heart and you put a lot of heart into it. So we're going to get right into that and find out why you have heart and what you do to show your heart to the people that you serve. So the first thing I wanted to discuss is tell somebody, Grace, I know you're one of the co-owners, what is home health? Because we do have a lot of caregivers who really don't know what a home health person can do in the home. And there's a lot of discussion about, well, is it a private duty home health? Does Medicare pay for it? Does it come out of my pocket? What does your company do?
So our company primarily is private duty, provide private duty service. And that is a little bit different from what the Medicare company can provide. For example, if we need a caregiver to go to the doctor's appointment and go to a grocery shopping, and then our caregiver can accompany the clients to do those kind of activities. And in the same time, if the clients need bathing, dressing, toileting, transferring, and then also our caregivers can provide those kind of services. So we strictly private pay. However, we also accept long-term care insurance and also the veteran aid and the benefits.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to come out of your pocket if you have some help from some other resources like the Veterans Administration.
Absolutely.
And other insurances.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. Good to know. This topic today is called Mind, Body, and Spirit of Home Care, Part 2. Now, we had you all on before, and about a couple months ago, when we talked about what we do and how we do it with Part 1. So we're going to continue that discussion today because we're talking about heart. And we want to get to the heart of what we do. And I think that you all have certain philosophies that you incorporate into your care. And I'd like to talk about that. So, Shay, tell us about your philosophy of care and what that means.
Well, our philosophy on care is really relentless focus on different aspects, key aspects of what we believe in. So I would say, really, we want to care for the client, and we try to incorporate that to all of the caregivers, that we want to treat them as if they were a member of our own family. And that's the most important thing. Aside from that, there's other key points. So we focus on mental wellness and physical wellness, the passion and the knowledge, as well as training and involvement with the community as well.
Okay. So having someone be comfortable in the home is probably one of the most important things that you can do to help somebody, because if you have a client who's elderly or has dementia or has some other handicaps that you're there in the home to help them, you want to make them feel comfortable, right? Because going in for the first time, aren't you strangers to them?
In a way, yes.
Right. So how do you transition? How do you incorporate your services into someone's home when they don't know you? So do you have some techniques or some special things that you do to make that person feel comfortable from the get-go?
Absolutely. I think, Marcia, you touched base about the heart, caring from the heart. And then today is a Valentine's Day. I think there's a perfect timing we talk about heart. And we talk about from first when we hire our caregiver, I think that's what we really focusing. Does this person have the heart to caring the elderly? This is very important to us. So you have the compassion, you have the empathy to all the patients that we care. Not just focusing on, earning the money. Obviously, it's a job, but it's also the passion to care for others is one of the criteria when we hire our caregivers. So we have very strict selecting process, and all our caregivers have to have level 2 background check, and also we have all the phone interview, personal interview, and then orientation. So it's a very important when we get to know the caregiver. So when we first after we do the assessment with our caregivers, and we personally introduce our caregiver to the family member the first time when the caregiver step into the client's home, because this will actually help to transition the caregiver to get in familiar with the family, and then also the family will get to know our caregiver. So it will just make the family more comfortable when our caregiver first know them.
So you first do an assessment of that person, the potential patient, to find out what they need.
Right.
Right. Then do you match up a caregiver to that person based upon the needs?
Yes.
And how do you do that? Do you screen them for certain things? I mean, how do you match them up? Because I would imagine that matching up a patient with a caregiver with certain characteristics would be beneficial to both of them.
Absolutely. When we do the assessment, we will ask the patient what's their preference of the caregiver. Sometimes the patient would like female caregivers. Sometimes they want the male caregivers. So we base on what's the client's preference. And then also we see what is the personality. During the assessment, we understand the client, do they want someone quiet, or do they want someone more active? Do they want someone who can do certain things with them? So, and then based on that, and then we match our caregivers with our patients.
Yeah, that is critical, because if you can imagine you have someone who's very timid and quiet and shy and maybe even a little bit paranoid, and they need help in the home, and then, maybe unknowingly send somebody in who's loud and boisterous and not sensitive to the person that they're going to be caring for. It seems like it might be a mismatch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I think you touched the point, Marcia. Yeah. And then somebody, if they require somebody who loves pets, if the patient has the pets at home, and then we want to make sure the caregiver is okay with the pets.
Well, that's also a good point, because a lot of people do have pets, and you can't send a caregiver in there that's allergic to cats,
I know.
or that's afraid of dogs, to help, because the pet is part of the family,
Right,
And you
right.
want to be involved with not only the client but the pet, because pets are very important to the elderly. They are their companion and their confidant sometimes, and they're their friend, and so you have to be sensitive to
Right.
that. Yeah. So I would imagine that when you're looking for the perfect caregiver with the heart, sounds like you would have an extensive questionnaire of them, right? Of asking them all these questions. So what are some of the questions that you would ask them to find out, or how do you find out that they do have compassion? How do you find out that they do have a heart for maybe the elderly, or they care and it's not just a job? How do you find that out in a person?
Yeah, maybe Shay can talk about that, because she have done so many interviews with the the
Okay, Shay,
caregivers.
you're on.
Okay, there we go. So I did, when I started out working in the office, I would help with HR, and I still do here and there. But a lot of the times, the questionnaire, the key questions that I like to ask is, why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a caregiver? And then when you look into their eyes, you can see the sincerity, and you just let them talk. I just let them talk, and then you ask questions to kind of continue that rhythm and listen to what they have to say, and listen to the sincerity in their voice. And why do you want to do this job? Because it can't, obviously, this is not an easy job, to being a caregiver. Like you say, sometimes it's pushed upon you growing up. And I asked them, do you have experience with a family member, taking care of a family member growing up, a sibling? And a lot of the times we try to bring in those caregivers that have the personal experience with their own family members.
Well, that's key too, personal experience. I know when I was growing up, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and I introduced my children, to that early on, so they would understand and not be afraid of great grandma, because it was their great grandma, because she acted different, because she would spit at them, and they were afraid. And so you have to introduce this and educate. So as much as we're educating professionals and we're educating family caregivers, I was educating my children at a very young age to understand, that something was wrong with great grandma and not to be afraid that, something happened to her brain, as much as a 3 and 5-year-old at the time could understand that.
Right.
So when you ask about the personal experience, if my children were to grow up and want to be caregivers, they might say, well, my great grandmother had it and I was taught to accept her because it really wasn't her doing it. It was the disease, whatever the issue might have been.
Right.
So some of the answers that you might get would be what? When you say, why do you want to do this?
Some answers I've gotten is, for example, I had one of our applicants come in and she had a live interview and she said that she was taking care of her sister who was disabled. And, sometimes you never know what life has to offer to you.
True.
So she was taking care of her sister since she was young, obviously older sister, but it was tough for her and she was a little bit emotional about it.
Right.
So
she had the experience and that proved that she had the compassion and the empathy that you're looking for in a caregiver.
Yeah.
Because bottom line is it has to be a good match, and a lot of people are afraid of bringing a stranger into the home, because they don't know their background, they don't know who they are, they don't have a connection. And I think, you're getting off to the first great start with finding the right people to begin with, and then giving them the training, the education if they need, that more. And that's very, very important. So you can't go wrong with that. So do you personally interview each person the same way before you hire them, Shay?
Yes, we do. We go through the same process. We stick to the questionnaire, and then we just learn more about them, because on the phone, it's just a voice. You're not live with a person. When you're live with a person, you can really listen to what they have to say, and then sometimes the mannerisms. You can tell when someone's being dishonest at times.
Wow, that's true. You got to know people, right?
It takes practice.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice. Wow.
Yes.
So they go through this. They go through the background. They
Yes.
go through the checking for felonies, for drugs, drug screening. Those things are required, right, from home health companies to do?
I'm not sure it's a required, but to us, right at home, definitely is one of our process.
Yeah, well, it's very important because you want to, eliminate all the bad seeds out there before
Right.
you go any further. So that's very, very important. So we're going to take our second commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this from Grace and Shay and learn extra things that they do to ensure that the caregivers give good care. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Do you need the advice of an
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know, we understand, we can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Ardencourt's Memory Care. They make this show possible along with our local sponsors, and Ardencourt's loves helping caregivers, and by doing so, the caregivers learn a lot because not only does Ardencourt's provide support groups and educational materials and educational seminars for caregivers, they also have this 36-hour day book that they would like to give to you free just for the asking. So if you're a caregiver and you like to learn more, this book is wonderful, a family guide to caring for people who have Alzheimer's disease, related dementias, and memory loss. It is a go-to book for information, tips, and all kinds of great advice. All you have to do is call Ardencourt's, let them know that you'd like to have this book for yourself, and that number is 888-478-2410. Call them up, tell them that you heard about it on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be glad to get your name and address and make sure that the book gets right to you. Again, 888-478-2410. And I'm here with Grace Wynn and Shay Gonzalez from Right at Home in-home care. And we're talking about all things heart today because it is Valentine's Day. And we want to show to caregivers some of the ways that people that are caring for a loved one can exude the compassion and the empathy and the compassion for people that need our help. And it's not always the case. I know sometimes there's some publicity out there about some caregivers that are not good. And a lot of times these are people that are taken right off the street, that have no training, no background checks. And these are the stories that we hear in the news where people have been ripped off, have been taken advantage of, exploited. And so, you know, one of the things that caregivers need to be aware of is when they're choosing to have someone come in the home to take care of a loved one is make sure that they're vetted. Make sure that it's not just somebody that you heard about through a friend, that's somebody else, because you really don't know who this person is. And so you've taken this job and you've vetted the person and making sure that they aren't criminal background, that they aren't a drug abuser, that they have the wherewithal to do the job and to do it well.
Right.
And that's so important because I don't want people to think that that's a stereotype of a caregiver because it's just not the same as going through a company such as Right at Home to vet those people and make sure that you're getting quality care in your home. So speaking of quality care, we talked about how you select the caregivers that you hire. We talked about how you vet them. We talk about how you train them. I know they go through an orientation period, and then you teach them something so important today that I think is missing in lots of different industries, and that's customer service. So, Grace, being a co-owner of the company, and Shay, you're a community liaison and in-home care specialist. Tell me a little bit about what customer service means to you, and give me some examples of how you can help promote good customer service.
Absolutely. So we first we let the caregiver know when we need to appropriately greet our patients. You don't call their honey or the pet name. So normally we say that we call them Mr. and Mrs. And also we let them know when you provide the care and you need to respect other people. So no cell phone usage. So because your attention is strictly to your patients.
And that's a biggie. You know, I hear a lot of times from a lot of caregivers that I talk to throughout the week, the year, all the time, speaking to caregivers. Many of them say, yeah, I hired somebody, but she's really not doing a good job because all she does is sit on her phone, talk, or sit there and watch TV, and she doesn't do anything.
Right.
And, you know, the whole idea, yes, is keeping someone safe in the home, but it really should be more than that. And like you said, you want to have someone who's like a part of the family. And a part of the family is not going to be sitting on their phone ignoring the patient.
Right.
They're going to be involved. So tell me more about your customer service and how do you get your caregivers to be involved with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing I want to emphasize, Marcia, is that we let the caregiver know you have to be punctual. So you need to arrive on time, especially the first time. Everybody probably are not familiar with the address. You know, get there a little bit earlier, be on time, and make sure that the patient are expecting you. So once you accept your shift, you cannot abandon the shift because our clients rely on you. So it is very important they don't have any family members. You are the caregivers. Once you accept that, make sure that you follow the guidelines and then arrive on time to care to your patients.
Right.
And we really emphasize the caregiver have good knowledge about taking care of our patients. So the good knowledge means that you understand different disease and different chronic situation. But right at home, actually, we have the Right at Home University provide those kind of training. So we have 500 courses in our Right at Home University.
Wow.
And we touch a different kind of topic, for example, Alzheimer and Parkinson's disease and HIV and many others that you can name it. So by doing this education, it's completely free to our Right at Home caregivers. And the more education that you have, and then we believe the better customer service that we can provide.
Absolutely, because you are a national company, correct?
Yes.
Correct? Right at Home is a national company, but you service Broward and Palm Beach counties.
Yes,
Okay.
for our local office,
Your
yes.
local office. Okay, great. So that's really important too, because like you said, if you're not punctual and you have someone depending on you to show up to care for their loved one, they're going to get a little nervous, you know, watching their clock and wondering if you're going to be late. And
Yes.
I think that's a very good point because, again, these days people seem to be not as punctual as they need to be, or they're lackadaisical about maybe some of their job responsibilities. And I think once you get a good caregiver, you will obviously want to keep them for a long, long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
yes.
retention is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially when you have like a long-term case. What are some of the lengths? I mean, will you do a day case, or does it have to be a week? Can it be a month? Can it be a year? What, as far as time frames, can you service people in their homes?
I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
So what we do is it varies on the patient, but let's say we get a call and the client needs 24-hour care. Sometimes we do 12-hour shifts,
Okay.
or we have sometimes unique situations come up where they want a live-in caregiver.
So you can provide that too.
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing about the live-in that is a little bit different, which some people, some clients or the family members are a little confused about, is that the caregiver, so they would be there for 2.5 days, and they have to have 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So what that means is 2.5 days. For that reason is that we would have to charge the client overtime if they were there for more than those 2.5 days, including the 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep.
So this was something new in the healthcare field for home health that came up to protect the caregiver, to make sure that they're getting the proper rest that they need. Is that pretty much why it came about, and make sure that they're getting what they need too? Because obviously, if you have someone in the home is 24/7, they have to sleep sometime.
Right.
Of course.
Exactly. Well, you want the caregiver to be alert and well rest to care for the patient. But to answer your question, Marcia, we also provide, like, maybe for the doctor's appointment, to just like 2-3 hours. And we can provide those kind of service if it's a client just want several days a week, and then we definitely can do that. It's a very customized plan.
Okay, so whatever the client needs is pretty much what you can do. So you'll fit into their schedule.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
3-4 hours, 6 hours if needed, 2-3 times a week.
Good.
Doesn't, whatever, because some people need companionship.
So you're flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be flexible, right? So I always say you have to go with the flow, especially when you're dealing with dementia. You got to go with the flow, because things can change on a dime. Things happen and change so quickly. So it's great to be able to work with a company that can service you in your own home, that you can also go with the flow and pick
Right.
up the slack where need be.
Yes.
That's great. Let's talk a few minutes about the other part of what you do under mind, body, and spirit, and that's the physical and mental wellness of the client. This is very intriguing because, we touched on it before about getting involved with that person and not just sitting there and making sure that they eat and making sure that they're safe, but there's more to it than that because
Right.
this is part of your philosophy of care. So what does the wellness of the client mean when you're dealing with a person, physical and mental, to keep them healthy? What would you do?
So for the physical part, we really encourage the patient to exercise a little bit more, not just sitting on the couch and watching TV, sometimes taking a walk. Sometimes we just, get the thing from the physical therapist, what kind of movement that we can help the client to recover. So those kind of the simple exercise that we can help the patient to do, and we definitely can do it.
Which is really important because, especially with the walking, right? It's too easy to go and sit on the sofa watching TV for hours at a time. It's easy to do that, right?
Right.
It takes more effort to get that person up and moving around to increase their mobility. And I know that a lot of people, would want their person not to lose it if they don't use it, because that's what'll happen. And if, especially the elderly, and keeping people going and moving, we all know, the studies have shown that that's healthy for us,
Right.
to keep our mobility and keep going. So very, very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not only that, sometimes we feel like by taking a walk and then by doing a little exercise, and then it actually help them to socialize with other people. I think that is the important part of being active, because if you're just staying at home and you just face your caregiver, you do not even know the environment, you do not even know your friends. And then some of our caregivers actually doing an excellent job, and then they bring the patients go out and say, introduce the patient, especially to new environment with our client just moving to the assisted living. She does not know anybody. But by doing that, just take a little simple walk to the dining room and to the exercise room. Say, hi, this is Mrs. Something. She just new. And introduce her to other members in the facilities, and actually help them to be part of the families.
Yes, that is important, because a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable doing that on their own, saying, hey, I'm new, and what's your name? But having that third party there to be that, in between is a great help.
Exactly.
I like that. Shay, you had more to say about that.
Yeah, just to add on to what Grace said, was that a lot of the time, if they're in their rooms and they don't really go out and don't socialize, they get into that cycle. And sometimes anxiety is very common, depression, especially if you may have dementia. And just you have to. So one thing that we do is we teach Tai Chi. So when we go out to assisted living facilities or rehab facilities, it gives us a way to be one-on-one with the residents there and introduce ourselves and talk to them. And just the interaction is also really heartening for me.
Yeah, that is important, because that's part of the social wellness aspect is, feeling part of a group, feeling that you're needed, you're wanted, that you're got a purpose, and that you're just not, alone and isolated. And to your point, Shay, you're absolutely right. People, especially with dementia, will tend to withdraw. And when they withdraw and stay alone in their room, they're going to get depressed, right? They're going to isolate, and then it's just going to be a snowball more and more into that. And it's very important to gently encourage them to be social, with their peers, and where they feel safe doing that.
Right.
And that's the key right there, is feeling safe. So we will be right back, and we'll be having more from Right at Home. Stay tuned.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to a
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias. even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know, we understand, we can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
Story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Right at Home representatives, Grace Wynn, co-owner, and Shay Gonzalez, who's a community liaison and in-home care specialist. And we're talking about all things heart, and that their caregivers have heart, and how you know that and what they do to show that. So continuing on that same line, let's talk about now the mental wellness of the patient. We talked about the physical, keeping them active. What do your caregivers do to help someone in the home stay mentally healthy?
We actually help them to do some puzzle. Some clients really like to do puzzle, and then sometimes the client likes to play games, and then our caregiver actually play the games together with our clients. It really actually provides the cognitive stimulation to their brain, and it makes them happy. A lot of time they like to play Sudoku, and then we can, we have a lot of books in our office, and then we say, hey, bring one to meet the patient, and then do the Sudoku. And some patients like to sing, and our caregiver will sing with them.
You take some music along with you and do some sing-alongs?
Yeah, just the music make people happier.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great stimulation. Have fun with them. It's not just about being there, watching them and staring at them. It's about being involved with them. And, Arden Courts has the same philosophy of care, because we want to be involved in our residents' lives. We want to, be part of their, like you say, extended like family. And we want to touch their lives and know their minds and their hearts and know everything about them, because the more you know about somebody, the better you can relate to them. Absolutely. And the better care you can give to them. And I know that you all have that same heart, and I want to thank you for that. And then last but not least, Shay, there's additional training. So how do you follow up, and how do you get feedback?
So we offer Dementia Live training. So Dementia Live is a virtual simulation, full sensory experience of walking in someone's shoes who may have dementia.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
So what is that like?
We are a certified provider. Our office staff is trained, and then every time we have an orientation session with a group of candidates for all the caregivers, we train them as well. So the caregivers are trained. So what we do is we have 4 to 8 groups of people. So we separate into 2 sessions. So 8, so we do 4 and 4. And then they walk into the room. So we have equipment. So we use headsets, and that eliminates the hearing, as well as explaining, expressing that confusion, making those noises, those different noises and sounds. That's making the sense of confusion. So as they're walking through that experience. And then they have gloves, so they put a set of gloves on, and that eliminates the sense of touch, as well as the loss of fine motor skills as well.
And what's the reason for this, that you do this with your caregivers?
So a lot of the times, especially, in the majority, or in general in Palm Beach County, there's a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's patients.
Yes, we know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or art in courts. There we go. So we do have a lot of dementia patients, and we would just want to make sure that the caregivers are know how to combat the common issues with dementia, the all early onset dementia to late stage dementia.
Right. So it's a way for your caregivers to understand
Yes.
and sympathize or be sensitive to some of the issues that a dementia patient would exhibit. So they understand, and that promotes that compassion and that sensitivity training.
Absolutely. So
They
they
can
put
show-
themselves in the dementia patient's shoes, why they react, why they behave like that. So they have more understanding, more sympathy to those patients.
And then you said you do some follow-up too. And how does that work? Because you have your caregivers. What if the caregivers that are in the home, what if they come back and they have some issues or they notice some things that aren't quite right? What can they do to relay that information? And then what do you do with that information?
So we have constant communication with the caregivers. So every 2 weeks, we have them come into the office. We have their checks, so the biweekly checks.
So you know they're going to show up, right?
Yes. And then we make food. So we cook, Peter and myself, the co-owner, and Grace. We make different dishes, from international countries. So I'm Cuban food. He makes Vietnamese food, Colombian food, Haitian, Jamaican food.
Wow, he's quite the chef, right?
That's his part-time job at home. But yeah, so we make sure, and then we talk to them. We say, how is Mr. Smith doing? How is Mrs. Elaine doing today? And then they let us know what issues or any challenges they have, and we try to work with them on what can we do to help them and support them while taking the case.
Okay, that's great. So you get constant feedback.
Yeah.
So it's not just putting somebody there and letting it go.
Right.
You want to know what's going on, what are the challenges or any issues that are happening so that you can address them going forward.
Well, obviously, if there's an urgent issue, the caregiver will call us right away. So we're not waiting like a 2 weeks period. But if
Right.
it's something need more attention immediately, and then we will get the call from the caregiver.
Great, great. Well, thank you for sharing this. I know that it's an important issue for a lot of caregivers. There are a lot of places to choose from when you're doing in-home care, and it's best to check it out, answer the questions that caregivers need to know the answers to, because a lot of times caregivers don't even know what questions to ask and how to choose a home health company. And so hopefully today you've heard some wonderful information that can help you in that. And of course, Right at Home is available to help too. And since today is Valentine's Day and we're talking from the heart, Shay, I know you have a poem that you're going to read for us today, and it's written from the perspective or written by an Alzheimer's patient. We don't have an author, so the author is unknown, but it's something that I think can touch all of us to understand where a person with dementia could be coming from so that we can continue with feeling with them through our heart and touch them and their hearts and make it a good experience for everyone. So why don't you go ahead and read that to us right now, Shay?
Alrighty. Okay, so a poem from an Alzheimer's patient. Do not ask me to remember. Don't try to make me understand. Let me rest and know you're with me. Kiss my cheek and hold my hand. I'm so confused beyond your concept. I am sad and sick and lost. All I know is that I need you to be with me at all cost. So do not lose your patience with me. Do not scold or curse or cry. I can't help the way I'm acting. Can't be different though I try. Just remember that I need you, that the best of me is gone. Please don't fail to stand beside me. Love me till my life is gone.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That is such a touching poem, and I think it does go right in with Valentine's Day and sharing our hearts with others. So if someone would like to contact you, Grace and Shay, to get more information or have you help them in their home, how can they do that?
call us right at home 561-910-1843. We are here ready to help.
All right.
24/7.
24/7. So give them a call. Also, don't forget to call Art and Courts, their toll-free number, to get your free copy of the 36-hour day book. And this is by calling 888-478-2410. This book is a wonderful resource for caregivers, and it's free just for the asking. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I want to thank you all for coming here and sharing your heart with us and your passion. And thank you for tuning in and listening. We will be same place, same time next week with another great show for you. So in the meantime, don't forget, give someone a hug because they need it and so do you, especially on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of the state.